All right. I wanted to first get into both of your backgrounds because you both have very interesting backgrounds. Magnus, to start with you, you've been an engineer basically your whole career. You've built 2 companies, directly negotiated with Bill Gates to sell one of your companies to him, which is very interesting. And now you're co-chair for AI on the AI committee at Alliance of Angels. Tell us a little bit more about your journey, selling that company to Bill. And then what I really want to know is if people were to Google you, what would they not find on their Google search?
How much time do we have?
1 minute, go. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me pick a few thoughts there. So first, if you Google me, you won't find a lot of things on social media around me. I am on Twitter and so on, but I hardly ever post anything. I think it's despicable the way they use our private information, that they try to pick out data about yourself and then they sell that data as your product, like you're the pig going to the slaughterhouse, essentially. So I stay away from posting on social media. Now, if you look carefully, which most searches don't do, you can find a lot of interesting information about me, like Google Scholar. It's not typically being picked up. I've got award from Wikipedia that I edited over 100 Wikipedia articles and created a few of them. So a lot of things like that don't show up. I am very curious by nature. I love to go down in rabbit holes on anything from deep technology to politics to foreign policy to Ukraine war. I can spend hours and hours on rabbit holes like that.
I did want to follow up one point here. Tell us about negotiating the deal with Bill. How ruthless was he?
So Bill was involved very early in our company, and he actually encouraged us. We talked to him frequently. We know that's our plan A, sell to Bill one day. It took us many years, 15 years. He came, he visited us, and he's super sharp. If you're in a meeting, I've seen a few people that are super sharp in meeting, and they have a tremendous capacity to abstract and condense information, complex information, like brew. So, he really gets it, even if he only spent limited amount of time. But he can also be an asshole. He can be an asshole if he wants to, and he can be the most brutal asshole. And then he can flip like this and be the nicest person ever. So he has these personality traits that I think he's playing them. And he's playing a role. And when you negotiate, you see both the asshole and the super nice Bill, right? And eventually, he's a shark, but a very nice shark if you get the right aspect from him.
And Harina, you've had quite a successful career.
No way.
Yes, I think so.
First, may I just say, Magnus, such a pleasure, and what an underachiever. I cannot believe this. Sold a company to Bill, Wikipedia. You didn't pick the right host today. The right guest. Go ahead.
So you've had quite a successful career being at first Microsoft, with Microsoft Azure, and pushing a lot of initiatives there globally, and then AWS from the Azure role, pushing a lot of their initiatives globally, which then led you to join Entrust, doing cybersecurity, deepfakes, that kind of stuff as chief customer officer. And you've been an active angel investor. Tell us, same question, if someone were to Google you, what would they not find? And
so I don't have any Bill stories. And thank you for that introduction. It's always good to be back here. My LinkedIn is sort of an open book. I think everything I do is out there. But here are 3 things that sort of, I think, drive how I do and what I do things, and it's not always evident in public. The first one, does anyone play poker here? Okay, I would love to join the game if you're doing one afterwards. So I learned to play poker and golf, but that's a separate story, a long time ago. And that really changed how I thought about taking risks, how I thought about decisions, and how I thought about divorcing emotion from sort of pragmatic decision making. And I highly recommend it. If you are in the mood and if you have the time to pick up something, think about poker. The second, what will you not find? So similar to Magnus, diverse career, right? I have most of my life among India, the US, and Europe. I was in EU running Microsoft during GDPR. So you get a crash course in geopolitics and macroeconomics and regulations, whether you like it or not, and you never recover from that. So all this to say that this helps you when you're trying to pattern match across things, right? So when you see something, you're not looking at it from just one perspective. You're sort of looking at it from 3 different perspectives, like fraud regulation. How does that manifest itself in the EU versus how does it manifest itself in the US? And how would a startup have to change their go-to-market to reflect that or embrace that? So I love Range. There's a book by David Epstein called Range. If you ever, I highly recommend it. And it is about the power of pattern matching and connecting many different narratives to have more powerful decision making. I'll pause there.
We might get into a little bit deeper conversation there in a bit. But what mental model or maybe guiding principles do you guys use when you're making an investment decision? And how has that maybe evolved over the past 5 years? I would normally say 10 years, but so much has changed even in just a few years. So
so first I thought it was logic, and it's not logic. I've recently, maybe I would say the successful deals I've made is founders that I met and I spent a lot of time with over several months or several years in some cases. And you get to know them before you invest in them. And when you work with them, you can see how do they react to new data, how do they think, how do they research, how do they plan, how do they execute, how do they promise, how do they over-deliver or under-deliver. You get to know them as an operator, right? You also get to know is he an honest person and so on, right? So I've practiced this now the last several deals I've done, and it actually has turned out to some deals I thought I would do. Say no, that's not a good team or good founder. And some deals I have done said this is a great individual, this is a great team, and yes, they might have a lot of issues for not investing, but those issues can be fixed. And they do listen, they do take advice, and maybe I can help them fix those things. So those investments I've done actually. And so far so good.
So let's see. This is as much about us and me investing as it is about a founder, right? There are 2 things I learned very early on. One is don't confuse luck and skill, right? Many of us got very, very lucky because we were around when money was cheap and things were growing fast. It didn't make us any smarter than others. So I had a few very early successes because it was the right environment, the right product, the right founder. The same thing were huge failures a year ago because the cost of money today is different than the cost of money 2-3 years ago, and they couldn't find the exits they wanted. The valuations are not the same anymore. So that's my first mental model, is I don't confuse luck and skill. The second thing is, do the work, not the outcomes, right? I don't do this to see the biggest outcome I possibly can. I do this because I enjoy the work, I enjoy the founder, I enjoy the problem they are solving, and I want to be a part of their journey. And that was important to me, because if you're not clear on why you do what you do, you're going to be in it for the wrong reasons, or you're going to be deeply disappointed in yourself. About the third piece, on the founder piece, I think it's so important, right? I'm looking for folks who are passionate about solving a problem, not just focused on the exit. I like that you have plan A, plan B, plan C for the exits, but I would love for you to say, this is the problem I really want to solve for. And I'm going to do this regardless of whether you're on the journey with me or not. So having that commitment, having that passion to a problem is important. Second, I have a big commercial hat. You need to be able to get a CFO to write a check for you. It's the one thing you'll hear from me in every conversation, first conversation. If you're not commercially viable, we have to go back and rethink what you're solving for. And the third thing is the person, your values, your tenacity, resilience, right? So many times you start with a problem statement and you end up solving something different. And they are super successful as they do that, but it's because they can pivot. They listen to feedback, they course correct when needed, and they have the agility to move, and they're not caught up in their own ego. That is who you put a bet on.
Similar answers. I love it. I'm going to skip one question so we can get to more Q&A from the audience, because I know we probably have a lot. I want to know what excites you maybe in a founder archetype today or a certain market. What's really exciting when you're looking at deals today?
So I think with AI, we are going through an enormous transformation in our society, and I think most of us underestimate that. Founders that understand this shift see that things will be different on the other side of this transformation, and there is a lot of opportunities to take. And I think we were just talking about this earlier. I compare this. Some people compare to that iPhone or social media or so. I think it's much bigger than that. Some people say internet. I think it's bigger than that. I compare it to like the invention of the computer in the 1950s. Computers affected everything we're doing today, and I think we're going to see AI is like the second type of computer we are seeing. These things will have huge implications.
So great time to invest. Great time to invest in venture.
There will be a lot of great investment, but there will also be a lot of the AI crash will happen. What is it? Internet was 7 years, so maybe we're 3 years into it. So founders that understands this, and founders think that yes, there are big, and this particular problem is going to have an opportunity for a big change. Founders that have that's very focused and they are motivated to pursue that change. I think that's exciting.
I agree. I think the platform shift, right? It's a societal shift, as you said. We were talking about the ethics aspect of it. We don't know what we don't know, right? And there are very few times in life when we've been there. The cloud shift, that wasn't as big as this one, but that was similar, where you got access to a whole new way of working. And it went from, oh, it's a nice to have, to an absolutely must have. How could you do business without it? And I think it's critical to think about how you get ahead of the curve, but also, and how do you build something that's sustainable? And I know all of you here are smarter than I am, and I would love to understand how you build durability into the ideas, into the concepts, into whatever you incubate, because that to me is the holy grail. Building the capability to solve a problem, keep evolving as the technology evolves, that I found most folks I speak to struggle with that. They solve for a point in time. And we are not even, it's not a mature enough point in time that you can solve for and sort of, call success on it. So cracking that code, I think, will be super critical. Remind me the question.
Oh. Basically, what themes, what markets, what's super interesting to you as an investor right now?
So I like boring, unsexy things. I spent my life in infrastructure, picks and shovels, Azure, AWS. So anything that solves deep infrastructure problems, I will write a check for if everything else makes it, because I know a CFO will write check for it. It's incredibly sticky. Once it's in there, it's going to stay in there until you screw up in a really, really big way. I love all things security. With all the work we're doing right now, there is incredible data. There's incredible fraud. Deep fakes went 300% last year, right? So identity is the biggest threat surface right now. And anyone, again, if you can crack that, you've cracked a massive, massive market with so many use cases. So I love all things security, especially digital, machine, and human identity. The third thing, and I call this a make the world a better place, it's the missionary part of it, which is all things related to, our demographics, aging parents, women, education and children, right? Making the planet better. How do you do autonomous? I just invested in a drone project in India that delivers medical supplies to rural areas that don't have roads. That's like the holy grail. You make money, it's a hugely commercial effort, and it is missionary. But those are the things that are exciting because they make the world a better place.
I completely agree. I completely agree with that statement. I wanted to ask a question that is applicable to a lot of the founders in the room. Because as investors, we pattern match. We go through 1,000+ investments a year. We're looking at pitch decks back to back. When somebody hops on a call with one of you guys to pitch their company to you, either as an individual founder or founding team, what makes you really lean in versus what makes you lean out?
Yeah, so one of the problems with LinkedIn is that people find you. So people send you these pitch decks and this pitch, and I probably get, like you guys, dozens and dozens daily, and I say delete. So it's just a problem. So once I've decided to take a call with a founder, I always have read the pitch deck. I always have done Google searches. I'm pretty prepared. I mean, I haven't spent hours on it, but maybe 30 minutes on preparing, right? So what I do when I have that call is I don't want them to go through the pitch deck. I've scanned through it. I have a lot of questions, and I want to see how they react to those questions. They don't need to have the right answers, but at least they should be thoughtful. They should know what they're talking about, and if I change the conversation here or there, they should be able to adapt, right? So typically, we have a very interactive conversation, and I also try to see how are they curious? Are they asking me questions? Are they trying to learn? Are they open to change, and so on, right? So typically, I ask them a lot of questions about. It can go very deep on like a financial model or a technology or a customer use case or something like that, right? So, and typically, I try to limit to 30 minutes. So after the 30 minutes, I've made an assessment: is this a person I want to work with or not? It's not the decision to invest or not, but is this a person I want to continue having conversations with?
All of that. So I won't like add too much to it, right? Except to say you need to know, again, the customer and the problem you're solving for. It's funny, most people start with a solution and they go, this is it. And I'm like, who are you selling it to? And they don't know the persona, they don't know the buyer, they don't know the plan B buyer. Like, do your homework. Second, know if something will scale. You get an education when you work for trillion-dollar companies, and that education is an education in scale. Right? How do you build hundreds of millions of dollars worth of businesses? So any idea you have needs to be able to scale. And that's the second check for me. Will you scale? The third piece is all about the business, and like we talked about, the resilience and can you pivot, right? So it's, do you know a persona? Do you have a solution that can scale? Are you able to go on the journey yourself? And you're looking for that near-term hustle and that long-term patience. Because this is such a hard journey, right? You're going to have so much hustle near term, and you have to wait a fairly long time to see the results you want to see results. So if you are coming in thinking about exits, very likely that's not going to be a great conversation.
And the last question I have before we get to the audience Q&A is something super important for founders in the room. When they're reaching out to investors like you or I, what's the best way to get in touch? Because as you've just mentioned, LinkedIn is a blessing and a curse, right? When a pitch deck ends up in your inbox, sometimes you delete it. So what's the highest signal way to get in touch with an investor?
Yeah, I think first of all, you should do your homework about who you're reaching out to. As I said, most of the non-recommended introductions I just delete. So find someone who knows me. And unfortunately, this is actually true that you do need to have like a warm introduction is much more valuable than a cold call. Second, I think Jeff Entros was on this panel last year, right? Yeah. So he is a long-time angel investor. He has been Alliance of Angels member for years, and I think he's done like 400 angel deals or something like that, right? And he made the point that if you're trying to do angel deals to be as an investor and become rich, that you're in the wrong business. This is not a get rich type investment. Angel investment is more like somewhere between philanthropy and like a Wall Street investment. So think of it more as you want to help something. You want to do something good for the world or for some cause you believe in, right? So if you have something that there is a cause, and it can be a big cause or small cause, look, am I interested in that? Have I posted anything around that? If so, there might be an angle. If you're trying to pitch something that I'm not interested in, so for instance, social media apps, I'm not interested in those, you're talking to the wrong person, you're wasting everyone's time. So I would recommend do your homework about who you're going to pitch, and second, find someone that you can connect to. Go into Alliance of Angels or one of the VCs. I mean, we work with all VCs like 161, Madrona, Pioneer Square Labs, which Jeff Entros founded, for instance. Go through some of those and see if you can find some kind of introduction. We do take applications to Alliance of Angels, and we go through hundreds every month to sift through. But you need to have then a very compelling story to be able to go to the next levels of those.
I love that. I'm going to check out Alliance of Angels next. So +1 to everything Magnus said. To me, my check's never going to be your biggest check, right? So you need to know why you want me on your cap table. Why are you spending the time to get me? You need my network? Do you need my skills? Do you want to expand in Europe and you want to know how to work on the EU, right? Like, figure out a reason why, and then I know that you've done your homework. So that's one. The second thing I'll say is I love repeat founders, and I often work with founders that I've already invested in. And I don't care if you were successful the first time or not. Just the fact you've gone through the journey means you have a much higher probability of being successful the second time around. And the third piece is this, the syndicate, right? The people you know. I'm as smart as the people I know and that are, with me in this investing journey. So I do a lot of investing across the world. Like in India, I have a community of folks who know the Indian market and bring me on when they need that expertise. I have folks in the Netherlands and the EU who bring me on for those opportunities, and I have friends here, Seattle and the Valley, that bring me on. So I rely, I don't have the deal flow. I'm a full-time operator. My deal flow comes through my network and the VCs, which is why I'm an LP for most VCs, because it's a more expensive way, but it's a great way to have a more disciplined way to get access to deals.
All right, we're going to take 3 audience questions and then move on to our fireside chat with David Cross. Does anybody have a question for Magnus or Harini? Fabio?
Thank you. Question for Magnus. We talk about AI being transformative, but we also talk about there is too much excitement, right? And so probably there is going to be a crash similar to what happened for the internet. How is the startup ecosystem be able to survive that crash?
I think you're absolutely right. I think there will be an AI crash in a few years here. And after that, I compare it to, actually I wrote on LinkedIn about this, that I compare ChatGPT to when Netscape launched. I was in Silicon Valley during the .com boom and crash, right? It took about 7 years. And we're maybe 3 years into the ChatGPT era, right? After the .com crash happened, everyone took the internet for granted. There was how else would you do it if you didn't use the internet, right? So I think we'll think similar about AI. Of course you would use AI. How else would you do it? So it would be so obvious to everyone that, of course, AI plays a role in this. I think there will be, in terms of you look at valuations and things like that, yes, there will be some adjustments around those things. I think also, sounds like you're from Europe. So if you go to Europe and talk about AI, they talk about ethics and laws and regulations, right? Very few startups and AI startups come from Europe, and I'm from Sweden myself, so I feel like Europe, you need to get your act together here, not only in the military but also in the AI startup ecosystem. And in the US, yes, there is regulation, but that's getting voted down, right, in the latest bill here. And I mean, all investors I know are looking at putting as much money they can into AI companies right now. Silicon Valley investors, they are like crazy. They fight each other. Who can put in more billions than anyone else? So there for sure will be a boom and there will be a crash, right? And I think I'm not worried about what's going to happen afterwards. Yes, as I said, I think the bigger shift will be in the society. What will happen to all the truck drivers in 10 years, right? And stuff like that.
Ken?
Thanks. So, Harini, you mentioned that one of the things you look for in a founder is if they're willing to scale the company to a much larger exit, right? And I guess my question for both of you is, what is your idea of a good outcome from a financial perspective or just from a personal perspective?
So when I spoke about scale, it was about the possibility of the solution scaling. It's less, I do care about your outcomes, right? Because I invest very early. I care very much about what I want to see, the 10x results I want to see. But this is about the solution scaling. What is the TAM you have? Do you have an opportunity to expand geographically into adjacent use cases? Can you build a portfolio? No one wants to buy a product of one. What's your opportunity to become a platform? If you're not able to articulate that, your chances of success are limited.
I was really fascinated when you mentioned not confusing luck and skill. So I'm wondering, are there any signposts or specific steps that you can take that would increase your chances of success, especially as you both mentioned, in the wave of AI and so many more competitors?
I think again, if you play poker, there are some things that are in your control. You place the bets, but things around you, the environment. And I'll give you an example. I had this incredible infrastructure startup, hyperscale growth. There was no reason why they shouldn't be a unicorn, shouldn't be acquired. They had incredible bad luck with just funding, running out of funding. And to me, that was, did I make the right decision? Yes. Right? But outcome attribution, I cannot attribute the outcome to the decision I made. I made the right decision, but because of factors outside the control, the outcome wasn't what I wanted. So in this case, luck did not work for me. I've had previous cases where luck, we got in and it was a massive hit because of a regulation changing, massive exit. Gosh, I'm the smartest person in the room. No, that's just dumb. So my net is focus on what you can control. Did you make the right decision? Did you evaluate did you do the right financial outcome for yourself? Would you do it again? If you answer yes to all of those three questions, you should feel great about yourself.
All right, give it up for Magnus and Harini.